the Chief Information Security Officer for the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. With over 4 decades of experience spanning steelworks in Scotland to state agencies in Texas and Washington, Iain Sloan is an IT veteran who's seen it all, from IBM minis to modern threat landscapes. As CISO at LCB, he leads with a pragmatic, people-first approach to securing systems, empowering teams, and keeping cyber gremlins at bay. Iain blends deep technical expertise with a storyteller's charm, making complex security concepts accessible and actionable for everyone. So welcome, Iain, and we look forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you, Katie. Good morning, everybody. As Katie says, my name is Iain Sloan. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer over here at WSLCB. Let me just hit this button and I should become big in all your windows and we'll get going. So I know what you're thinking. It's another cybersecurity presentation with a sci-fi theme, but bear with me for a little bit. So when I was young, Monday evenings, January through February in 1981, as Katie said, I've been around for quite a while, brought the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to TV. It was one of 4 channels we had, so you were kind of limited for what you were going to watch. It introduced me to a new world. It was low-budget TV, but it was brilliant. The guide itself being an electronic device, held all this information. It was mind-blowing. 14-year-old me never thought I'd see anything quite like it in my time. Years later, I bought my first mobile device. It was an Apple Newton message pad. It connected to the Nokia phone I had, and it gave me the opportunity to get online to the internet. Later, I got myself a Palm Pilot, all because of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I wanted to have all that information at my fingertips. These obviously all evolved into what we know today as being smartphones. But here's the thing. Douglas Adams was onto something when he made "Don't panic" the most useful advice in the galaxy. When your systems are under attack, alarms are screaming, panic is literally the worst thing you can do. So today, we're going to talk about why practicing your incident response plan is more than just a checkbox exercise. It's what separates pros from the people who end up as cautionary tales at security conferences. And it's something that's been at the core of my thought process since I realized that things in IT and cybersecurity worlds aren't always calm and smooth. So, the big question, what do you get when you multiply 6 by 7? And if you come up with a number, you're wrong. Adams used this math as a metaphor for questions that don't quite make sense. You know, what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything? But you know what really doesn't make sense to me? Organizations that spend months crafting beautiful incident response plans, they're never actually testing them. It's like building a spaceship and never actually checking that the engines work. Spoiler, usually don't. So today, the practice part is what we're focusing on. Because when ransomware hits at 2 a.m. on a Friday, you don't want to discover that your contact list is from a different dimension and half of those people have quit. And you're right, the answer is 42. So, know what your tool is. Your digital tool, obviously. So we are looking here at the most useful thing that you can carry, as was written in the guide, your tool, because it shows that you're prepared. Your incident response toolkit is basically the same concept. I've seen too many incidents where teams spent more than 40 minutes just figuring out who to call, while attackers were having a field day in their environment. Your runbooks need to be idiot-proof because during real incidents, we're all pretty much idiots. Stress makes smart people do dumb things, so plan for that. So have your runbooks, get your contact lists, preferably, as I say, updated this century. Communication templates, because have them pre-written. Words are hard during incidents. Your evidence collection tools, whatever works for you in the way for forensic digital toolkit, and decision trees or in that moment when we're talking about pulling the plug and that becomes an urgent thing. So the Babelfish problem. The poor Babelfish has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation. Technical teams and executive teams talk different languages, and it's not currently an offering on Google Translate, just in case you want to check. Legal wants details, communications wants silence, and IT wants more coffee. I wonder why. I don't today, but that's another story. External communications while still maintaining operational security. You know, what you can tell to whom, when, and all be on the same page. Adams at this right. Communication problems regularly cause more damage than the original issue. I've watched incidents escalate, not because of what the attackers did, but because nobody could agree on what to tell whom and when. Technical folks want to deep dive into indicators of compromise, while executives want to know if they should cancel the board meeting. Practice your communication protocols like your life depends on it, because your job definitely might at some point. The infinite improbability drive. This is the Murphy's Law. And if you've been around in IT for any length of time, like I have, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and usually at the worst possible moment. The infinite probability drive does impossible things, like your incident response plan, working exactly as it's written during a real crisis. Here's what I've learned. If something can fail during an incident, it's gonna. Your primary communication system will go down. Your incident commander will be on vacation, probably in Hawaii. Your backup systems will choose that exact moment to be in the middle of vendor scheduled maintenance. Test everything, especially the stuff that you're sure will work. We've all been here. We've all been in this space. We've all been part of that, trying to find people that aren't available, whether their phone is left in a drawer at home, whether they've decided to throw it into the sound. Make sure you've got backup ability to get to people, especially if you rely on Teams like we do for your telephony purposes. It may not be working either when your problem comes up, and that's a good thing to plan for. I've actually planned for that in one of my future tabletop exercises. Total perspective vortex. And yes, I do lean very heavily on the book for some of this information. The total perspective vortex derives its picture of the whole universe on the principle of extrapolation from a piece of fairy cake. You guys would probably know that as birthday cake. It's a British thing. So avoiding tunnel vision. The total perspective vortex destroys people by showing them their true place in the universe. Don't let incident response do the same thing. I've seen teams convince themselves they're dealing with advanced persistent threats when it's just actually Steve in accounting clicking suspicious links again. Take every incident serious, but don't let your imagination run wild with limited data. Practice helps you maintain that perspective when everything else is on fire. Don't fly off the handle. Don't immediately assume anything. Never assume anything. And as you're working through stuff, document everything. Because one of the things I've found over the years is writing things down step by step in a logical manner that allows me to go back and look at something we've already tried, something we've missed, and it just made sense to me. And someone very early in my career set me off on that path. And I've kind of stuck to it all these years, and it works. So, the Heart of Gold's crew. Every incident response team needs diverse skills, just like every good space crew. Your incident commander doesn't need to be the most technical person. They need to be someone who can make decisions under pressure and coordinate resources. I've seen brilliant technical folks completely fall apart trying to juggle containment actions. Know your strengths, know your role, and for the love of all that's good, practice working together before the universe starts ending. I had a manager at one point, a long time ago, who sat down in front of something that was relatively new at the time, but it ran our whole production environment in the steelworks where I worked. And at the command prompt, at the root of the command prompt, I should even add, he typed a command that basically deleted the whole device. So we've really quickly worked out that our backup system worked and worked well. We were able to restore that, get it all back synchronized, and get everything running again. So we actually knew where the pipes in the facility were, what had went out while that'd been down, and it was just the biggest nightmare of my career. And had that not happened, I probably wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting today. So the incident commander, Arthur Dent for our purposes here today, confused but learning fast. Security staff, Ford Prefect, the guy that knows the real threats. Communication staff, Trillion obviously, actually competent at talking to people. An executive sponsor, in the book, that would probably be Zaphod. Makes decisions, but hopefully better ones than Zaphod did. And the IT operations team, Marvin, depressed, but get stuff done, as long as you feed them coffee and pizza. The restaurant at the end of the universe. Tabletop exercises that don't suck. Scenario-based practice starts simple with like the website's down. Escalate realistically, add time and pressure and communication failures. Include curveballs. Key personnel are unavailable, just like I mentioned. Tools that fail. And end with lessons learned, not apportioning blame. Most tabletop exercises are about as exciting as watching paint dry. Here's how to fix that and make them realistic and slightly uncomfortable. If your team's not sweating a little during practice, you're not practicing hard enough. I once ran a scenario where the incident response team's communication platform got compromised as part of the exercise. Watching them figure out how to coordinate via personal phones was educational for everybody involved. I've already said I'm planning to do that again, but who knows? Throw in some advanced scenarios like multi-vector attacks, supply chain compromises, insider threats. Those can really be fun, especially when it's unexpected, and regulatory notification requirements. Talking of requirements, vogue on bureaucracy. Resistance is useless. The Vogons destroyed Earth for a hyperspace bypass, all perfectly legal and perfectly documented. The regulatory compliance during incidents can feel just as bureaucratic and destructive. But here's the reality. You're going to have to deal with it anyway, so build it into your practice scenarios. Run exercises where you practice drafting breach notifications while still actively containing the incident. Trying to write legally compliant prose legibly while your infrastructure burns is a special kind of hell. I've tried it. I can't do it. I'm too busy trying to actually deal with the issue. So when you look at those things like GDPR, there's a 72-hour requirement to notify. The SEC disclosure requirements is 4 business days. There are other incident industry-specific mandates like HIPAA, PCI DSS, etc., that you have to be aware of. Documentation requirements that actually help is something you really probably need to build into your incident response plan. So back to the first question, Deep Thought's answer. Deep Thought spent 7.5 million years calculating that the answer of the meaning of life, the universe and everything was 42. Most organizations spend about as much effort tracking meaningless incident response metrics. Yes, it's important, but if you're not tracking whether people actually followed their procedures, you're missing the point. Practice gives you real data about what works and what's really just security theatre. We all track these metrics some way, somehow, whether it's mean time to detection, whether it's mean time to containment. Communication timelines is always something I keep documented. I write it down in paper. I want the who knew what and when, and who actually adhered to the processes. Did they follow the plan? Did the plan work? And then that's when we're going back to the after action review and finding out what didn't and updating the plan, because keeping the plan updated is important. So the guide's philosophy: don't panic. Easy to say, harder to do without practice. It only works if you practice not panicking. I've been in incidents when seasonal professionals completely forgot how to use the tools they've been using for years, like the guy who sat down and typed L star space /s. At least stress is weird like that. It just, as I commented on, it makes very smart people do very silly things. Regular practice builds muscle memory, like playing the guitar. Your fingers know where to go on the fretboard. This is the same thing. Your fingers will know where to go on the keyboard. You'll know where to reach for your guide. It's kind of like, it is like your hands knowing what to do, even when your brain's screaming at you. Make it routine, make it realistic, make it count. Schedule practices throughout the year. Don't just do the practices you need to meet compliance. Do more. And don't be afraid to use live fire exercises with live systems. We can all build duplicate systems out there. We just don't advertise them. Use that to actually have your people practice on it and actually rebuild and build it back to where it was and be able to check it against the live system. Mostly harmless speaks for itself. Earth got rated mostly harmless in the guide, which wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement. Don't let your incident response capabilities get the same rating. The whole point of practice is learning what does and doesn't work before it really matters. I've seen organizations run the same broken scenarios for years without fixing anything. That's not practice. That's just expensive theater. And be honest about what went wrong. Fix it. Try again. Practice, learn, adjust, repeat. Update those procedures on the lessons learned. Share that knowledge across teams and document the good, the bad, and the ugly. Without being honest with yourself and with your team, you won't get anywhere. You won't improve. Your incident response plan won't be as good as it could be. Then those after action reviews, document those things that worked as expected, what failed absolutely spectacularly. Where did communications break down? Because it will break down. And what assumptions were wrong? And I've already commented, don't make assumptions, but it will happen, and document those that did go wrong. So long, and thanks for all the fish. No, it's not the end. Practice like lives depend on it because, as I said, careers do. Communication is harder than containment. Your plan will fail in creative ways every time. Regular drills beat perfect documentation. Don't panic, but do prepare. In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and has widely been regarded as a bad move. Incidents are going to happen. That's not a bug in the universe, that's a feature. The question isn't whether you'll face a security incident, it's whether you'll handle it like a professional or like someone who just learned their planet got demolished for a hyperspace bypass. Practice doesn't make perfect, but it does make competent. And competent beats panicked every single time. And don't forget your guide. Essential reading Remember this, the best incident response plan is the one your team actually knows how to execute. Before you go forth and practice, remember, even the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had regular updates. Your incident response plan isn't a static document, it's a living thing that needs care and feeding. Keep it updated, keep practicing. And when the inevitable does happen, you'll be ready to calmly reach for your towel instead of running around screaming. Don't ask me to calculate the meaning of life. I'm still working on the meaning of effective incident response. But use the resources that are out there for you. The NIST Computer Security Incident Handling Guide, the SONS Incident Response Process, our own state incident response process, and your own agency's incident response process. Keep your guide close. I have a copy on my phone. I have a copy on the iPad that's sitting in front of me that's got notes on it right now. And I have a hard copy. I have one at home and I have one here in my office. The last time we ran it, not the last time, the time before last that we run an exercise, people didn't look at their plan. All the questions we asked during that tabletop exercise could have been answered by having the plan in front of you. It's not a test, it's not closed book. If something went wrong, you would have your plan hopefully with you. Don't rely on the electronic copies you have because maybe you can't get to them. Maybe they are not available because of the specific incident itself. Have backups. Keep those handy. Keep it with you. If you're like me, carry a backpack, keep one in the backpack too. It doesn't need to be as big as the one you carry around, but one that will just get you started and going. Not having one, though, is pure folly. So, when basic drills become routine, some nightmare scenarios. Once your team masters basic scenarios, it's time for the advanced course. These are the incidents that separate from the experience from the truly prepared. Practice scenarios where multiple things go wrong simultaneously, where your assumptions about blast radius are completely off, and where the incident happens during your biggest launch of the year. If your team can handle these without completely losing their minds, they're ready for almost anything the universe that can throw at them. Couple that I came up with. The Magrathea Special, a total infrastructure rebuild. It happens. Why not be prepared for it? The Vogon Constructor Fleet, meeting those compliance deadlines during an active incident. Not difficult, but hard to do in real life. The Bistromathic Drive, when your backup plans have backup plans. And the somebody else's problem field, when it's definitely your problem. So just a little disclaimer I'll throw in at the end. I've used Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, characters and quotes, purely for educational purposes and to lighten what can otherwise be a dry topic. And thank you all very much for your time and listening to me.
Thank you, Iain. I'll go ahead and open the chat. If anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand. This was outstanding. While you were talking, I ordered the book for my grandsons. I think it's a great book and hope that they read it. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, we have a winner.
Okay, and I just turned the chat on. Go ahead, Devin. We can't hear you.
Wow, I
There
was
you
talking
are.
for a while there. Sorry. Thanks for doing this. I love Douglas Adams, and made me think of a lot of different ways that I could bring it into my communications. I didn't necessarily have a question, but I had a couple things I was thinking about, like the dolphins and respecting your experts, listening to your experts as they're trying to warn about the impending doom. Um, and then also asking the right questions around like deep thought, because he came up that the answer was 42, but what is the question? And that
Yep.
was the whole, yeah. Anyway, that was all my comment. Thank you.
It's asking the right questions. That's the hard part.
Okay, we have a question in the Q&A from Megan from OFM. I'm excited to plan future tabletop exercises with my team, but I'm curious, do you have any suggestions or best practices when it comes to doing tabletop exercises virtually?
That's actually a really good question. Plan it well, document it well beforehand, and you take the role of the incident commander at the actual tabletop exercises, and have all the little injects, the little pieces of information you're going to push in to the actual plan, to the actual exercise. Do the stuff that they don't expect. Throw them those curveballs. I mean, regardless of where you're sitting, if you're sitting in a room or you're sitting scattered around the state, shouldn't make any difference. You still have the access to the same stuff, but that is going to show whether they've actually read the incident response plan or not. Because if you really tie it to your plan and they don't have the answer to the questions, you've basically proven they haven't done it. They haven't read it. But throw in some really, really good curveballs.
Yeah, there's value in I don't want to say making the exercise a little bit more stressful, but just to your point, it's like, well, we do live in a pretty much virtual world these days, even in state government. So yeah, the onus is on each of us individually. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
And as I said too, make them sweat, and I mentioned it within there, make them sweat. If you're not making the team sweat during the exercise, then the exercise isn't deep enough.
Yep, and Nicholas from military said that the use of AI chat GPT is a great tabletop.
Yes.
You need a suggestion there.
100% is.
All right, George Williams, you want to tell us what you mean? What was the middle part?
Iain knows what that was. I was just a little dig at him. He works for me, so I just had to put it out there.
I thought
he had to get his bit in. He had to make a comment.
All right. Yeah, everyone really loved this, and including myself. So you did a great job, Iain. Hopefully we can have you back next year. Don't see any other questions. Oh,
I appreciate it.
Megan's got another question.
I'm just gonna go, off script here. I'm guessing, Iain, that at the Liquor and Cannabis Board, you have quite a lot of different types of data that require, different levels of security, different federal and state policies that dictate your incident response plan. I just wanted to clarify here. You have an incident response plan established for each data system or collection of data at LCB, or do you have one incident response plan to rule them all and all the ties that bind them?
Yep.
Throwing in some token here.
We're now going on to a whole different book. Yeah. No, we have one to rule them all. Because once you start breaking that down into multiple documents, and I'm sorry, WATEC and WATEC policy folk, but the more policy documents you have to read, the less chance people have of reading them. And that's something I had considered, when I took over this role, when considering I really have only been full-time in this role since July 1st. One of my things to do is rebuild the incident response plan, rebuild all of the security policies that the agency has, because they've all changed since they were last updated. And I want to take, like, for example, the security policies that WATEC has, summarize a lot of that down and make it into one policy, because there is nobody going to sit and go, oh, that's in this specific policy. Like we have, like I do right now. Oh, you need to go look at SEC 06 for something, and it's like I just want to be able to send them to a chapter or whatever in the specific policy we have. But I prefer one, because that way people is going to actually read it and keep it with them.
And so any unique, I guess, steps, depending on the type of data, in question, that would be called out, for example, in like an appendix or something. Clearly,
Yes.
I'm working on my own. I'm working on my own incident response plan.
Absolutely, because we are like some other agencies, like DFW, DNR, those kind of people. We're an agency that deals with CJIS data, so we have got those federal compliance things to work into this too, and that would be a whole different kettle of fish. That's an appendix thing at the end that, because of the limited way we use that data, there's some special handling rules that we have to adhere to in there. All of the operations staff that would even possibly handle that have been background checked through WSP. My team has all been background checked through WSP, and I have been now from both at DNR and here for the same things. It's just that's where it really comes into there's an appendix off at the end that deals with how we specifically do the special handling part around that, if that becomes an issue for us within an incident.
Thank you, Iain. Yeah, we also deal with CJIS and FERPA as well. In OFM, we have education, and criminal justice data. So this is very helpful. I appreciate this context.
I had learned something new. I did not know you guys dealt with those.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and then Ed put a question in the Q&A. How do you start making a plan when no plan is available in an existing environment? And I know you've been talking a little bit about this. Is there any other helpful hints you can give, Ed?
There is a very wide group of resources here within the state of Washington. There are some very smart people who will more than happily help get your plan from zero up to something that's working. None of us came in as expert plan writers. We learned as we went along, and a lot of that came through experience of being in the middle of those incidents, and how those incidents affected us specifically. We will learn not to let other people make the same mistakes. Why have other people make the same failure that you've made already when you can document that and make sure it doesn't happen again? That's why we have the after action reviews too. But there's a whole network of people here who would be more than happy to help get something up. And as you said already, Ed, no, it wasn't you. It was Nick that said already, there's a possibility you could go out and you could start, if you're allowed to do so, use AI to get you a basic template. There are plenty of templates out there. I know one of my, CISA has templates for it. You could probably go pull that and start filling in the boxes.
Yes, and in the Q&A, Carlos added the B&B Shuffle by Richard Fung, P3HNDRX.
It's a link to backdoors and Breach is a card game you can play for tabletops. They have an
Gotcha.
online version that you can play.
I didn't know they had an online version. That's awesome.
You can also buy it for Steam if you're a hardcore gamer.
Some of us are not allowed to
Gamification.
buy Steam Decks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again. And oh, something just came in the chat. Let me make sure we don't have another question.
Just reposting for the larger crowd.
There you go. Thank you. All right, everyone. That's all we have for today. Thank you again, Iain. That was fabulous. And we will post this recording and the deck on the website. And we look forward to seeing you. Oh, if you still have the invitation for tomorrow, we had to move it to the end of the month. It was someone from CISA, and he's not able to present right now. So please look for that updated invitation. And we look forward to seeing you then on the 9th. Thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.